Welcome. I'm Gayathri and I'm passionate about transformative coaching in the realm of life and leadership. My journey towards coaching started with an educational background in psychology and over 20 years of corporate leadership. Today, my commitment to help unlock limitless possibilities within each individual has culminated in the creation of my organization, Realize to Win. As a certified master coach, my philosophy centers around the power of the human mind and its boundless capacity for growth and achievement. My approach is rooted in the belief that with the right mindset, training, and guidance, there's truly no limits to what you can accomplish. My work is just not about reaching goals. It is truly about redefining the very boundaries of potential. Join me every week on my podcast, Catalyze Your Self, where we can dive into mindsets, experiences, and practical steps that will ignite your transformation towards limitless possibilities. I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Catalyze Yourself. I'm your host, Gayathri, and today we are highlighting a topic that's very close to my heart: our self-worth, and why it is absolutely a non-negotiable. I have personally walked this path. However, the idea to make this as one of our episode highlight came out of a recent follow-up conversation I had with a client of mine, where we had worked through how our self-worth shapes our worldview, how we treat others, how we allow others to treat us, our experiences, and our decisions. My client, who we will name Tony for the sake of our example, approached me for feeling undervalued in his job, in his career, and overarchingly unfulfilled in his personal life. He was struggling with almost a pervasive sense of not being enough, which there was an echo of that across all aspects of his life. As we kept working together, it became very evident that the root of all of this challenges stood at a profound under-evaluation of his own worth. The journey Tony took from self-doubt to self-assurance took time, compassion, resilience, and grace, of course. This was a necessary journey for Tony to reach a place of positive self-worth and mental health. So today, our discussion centers around the non-negotiable aspect of our lives, our self-worth. Let me start with this. Why is the understanding and knowing of our self-worth so critical? Why is our self-worth a non-negotiable? In Tony's case, it became very apparent as we worked through his goals that he did not know his self-worth, and that this was leading to an overall state of unhappiness with his own self. And he was consistently okay with accepting less than what he wanted or needed in his life to remain balanced and happy. Based on my own personal experiences and working with clients like Tony, there's been quite a few direct impacts when you know your self-worth that I wanted to share with you. The first of which is when you have self-worth, it diminishes unfavorable comparisons. There's a saying that is so true. When you compare yourself, you are a stealer or thief. You steal peace and joy from you and from those around you. Comparing ourselves to others can lead to feelings of inadequacy and under recognition of what you bring to the table. A healthy self-worth enables you to see these comparisons as absolutely unhelpful and often unrealistic. Recognizing that each person's journey is unique allows you to focus on your own goals, your own progressions, without measuring them against someone else's. If you absolutely have to compare, compare it to yourself from who you were yesterday to who you were today. The second one is very much connected to the first and can come out of the first one that I just spoke about. When you know your self worth, you do not indulge in envy or jealousy. Jealousy and envy often arise from feeling inadequate or less fortunate compared to others. When you have a strong sense of self worth, you're more likely to feel content with your own life and achievements. What is others is for others to have. What is for you, you have, and you will make for yourself. You understand that your value isn't diminished or enhanced by someone else's success. This perspective helps you appreciate others' accomplishments and even find inspiration from them rather than in any sort of way feel threatened. That's when jealousy and envy typically show up, when you feel inadequate and threatened. The third impact of knowing your self worth is to eliminate the need for external validation. In this world of social media, it seems almost a prevalent, pervasive issue that we have to work on. Our self worth should come from within us. When you truly know your worth, you do not rely on others to affirm it. While feedback from others can be appreciated and considered, it does not define your sense of success or failure. This independence fosters a more stable and reliant sense of self that is very much less vulnerable to the fluctuations of others' opinions and attitudes. And if you need a fourth reason to know your self worth, it is that it encourages your motivations to come from within you. When you have a strong self worth, you're more likely to pursue goals because they are personally meaningful, not because they might impress others or to prove your value to others. This shift to intrinsic motivation truly enhances your satisfaction and enjoyment in what you choose to do. Another reason, a fifth one, is where you can live a balanced, emotionally stable life. Knowing your self worth helps you stabilize your emotions. You're less likely to feel the ups and downs based on how you perceive others to view you or how you stack up next to them. This emotional stability supports a better mental health and ends up giving you more fulfilling relationships as interactions now are less likely to be clouded by insecurity or competitiveness. And finally, when you know your self worth, you're able to create, build, and invest in genuine relationships. When you are secure in your self worth, your relationships are more likely to be based on genuine connections rather than any sort of need for validation or for dependency's sake. In essence, knowing and appreciating your self worth clears your path for a more peaceful and centered life, and it reduces the negative impact of jealousy, envy, and dependence on external validation. And what does this do? It promotes a healthier mind and your personal growth. So there you go. But six different solid reasons why we must recognize that our self worth is a non negotiable when it comes to being the best version of yourself. When we think of the term self worth, what exactly does it mean? Very simply, it is the value you place on you. It is not something you earn through achievements or something that decreases with failures. It is the very essence of your being and how you value yourself and the value you give yourself. It shapes every decision you make, how you interact with the world, and the boundaries you set for yourself in your relationships. It is independent of external factors and opinions. It is about recognizing your dignity and worth as a person. Self worth is more about a fundamental sense of being worthy of happiness, of respect, of love, irrespective of accomplishments, the roles you play in your life, or successes that you have achieved, or the failures you have learned from. For Tony, realizing that his value wasn't tied to his job title or relationship status was a huge breakthrough. And it took a lot of self work for him to get there. And this was definitely not being an overnight realization. He had to remind himself as he worked on this transformation consistently. The realization is just not about the feeling good about yourself, it is about a fundamental understanding and acceptance that your worth stays constant. Finding and knowing your own value and dignity, finding your self worth, involves two very important steps. One is looking inward, that introspection, and two is what you do about it, your actions. So let's kind of walk through what that looks like. So the journey begins with self reflection, which involves taking time to think deeply about your life, your behaviors, your beliefs, your relationships. And this process helps you identify what your values are and understand what truly matters to you and recognize your unique strengths and talents. You would ask yourself questions like, what are my core values? What are my most defining moments? What brings me joy and fulfillment? Some of these you may already know over the top of your head. And some you may have to really deep dive and think about till you come to that realization, this is what I believe, this is who I am. And as you reflect, you naturally develop greater self awareness. This means becoming more conscious of your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, your decisions. Self awareness allows you to see where your thoughts and emotions lead you and how they affect your actions. It also helps in recognizing patterns that might be holding you back or those may be propelling you forward. With increased awareness, you can now begin to see your unique traits and what contributes to your life and those around you. And this starts affirming your intrinsic value. The next step would be to cultivate self compassion because all of these self reflections and self awareness shows you some really good things about yourself, and there may be areas that you may want to acknowledge and work on. So, acknowledging your imperfections and forgiving yourselves for things you didn't know, things you made a mistake about, and understanding that failure is simply a part of human experience, happens to every single human. You are no exception. This acceptance then can alleviate the pressure of perfectionism and increase your resilience and enables you to take risks and embrace your growth opportunities without anything standing in your way. So, self compassion leads you to self acceptance. This is almost a culmination of your understanding and embracing all aspects of yourself. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your successes, your failures, they all holistically made you who you are today. It means recognizing your worth, your value, independently of your achievements or approval of others. Self acceptance is not about complacency. Rather, it's truly you're acknowledging where you're worthy and where you're valuable right now. So let's walk through a real life example. I spoke very conceptually. So let's walk through a real life example. And I want to share a story of a leader that I coached a while back, where the company that she was with was going through a major restructuring, and her team was one of those tremendously impacted. For the sake of sharing the experience, let's give her the name Denise. Coaching support was one of the resources given to the leaders impacted by a restructuring. Now, not every organization does that, but some do. And I was her support, and I was helping Denise through the impact to herself and how she could navigate this change with her team. What came out as part of this process was the personal impact this change was having on her. Denise's morale was low as she associated this large scale organizational decision with how she, as an individual, as a person, and a leader, had failed in her team's success. Once this became apparent, it was very clear we needed to prioritize establishing her acceptance and value that she places on her self worth. So we worked together on self reflection. It's where we started, where the focus was to examine her past decisions and leadership style and considering how they had contributed to both successes and challenges. And this exercise helped remind her and made it clear how she valued and demonstrated resilience, transparency, empathy as a person, and how this elevated her ability to be an effective leader. This moved us to the next phase of self awareness, where Denise came to a place of recognizing that the value that she brought with these abilities did not change, regardless of what challenges she was facing. She could see that when she was facing any challenge, and this particular one being potentially the hardest that she had to navigate so far in her career, yet she could approach it by staying true to who she is. This was a pivotal shift, as this moved Denise to be able to give herself compassion and recognize that her own self criticism was keeping her back. She reminded herself that navigating a restructuring was challenging for any leader. Setbacks was a natural part of it, and it is never a reflection of her worth. Denise learned to forgive herself, and this is anytime somebody shifts, transforms, shifts to a completely different way of looking at, you have to give yourself grace. There's going to be slide backs. However, you recognize and you keep moving forward. So she had gotten to the point of learning to forgiving herself for not having all the answers and started treating setbacks as opportunities for growth rather than personal failures. This shift helped her maintain her morale and leadership presence even under pressure. And as we continued to work through the completion of the restructuring, we were able to move forward knowing Denise had reached a point of self acceptance of her own value and worth. And this follow up conversation I had with her confirmed she's still there. I am so very happy that she has been able to keep that journey going. She was demonstrating back then a determined demeanor and embracing her unique capabilities and limitations as a leader. And that's what she's doing today. She understood that her true worth was not defined by the success of the restructuring alone, or the fact that there was a restructuring needed in the first place, but her ability to lead came from who she is as a person with integrity and care. Denise accepted that while she could always improve, all of us can, she was already competent and a valuable leader who could guide them through tough times. And through this journey, Denise not only strengthened her self worth, but also became a more grounded and compassionate leader. Because this transformation was evident to her team, who felt more supported, valued, and leading to increased engagement and better collaboration during a restructuring process, which is a stressful time for everyone. In the first example of Tony and the most recent example of Denise, there is a key point that we need to also take away, which is self worth is not the role you play. It is the person who plays the role that's important. The values, the mindsets, the beliefs, who you are. The idea of your role or position that as not determining your self-worth is really a crucial concept in developing a healthy self-image, and it is very important for your emotional well-being. And why is that? Your intrinsic value, your inherent value as a human being exists independently of the roles you fill, whether they're professional titles, social positions, familial responsibilities. While these roles can provide a sense of purpose and satisfaction, provided they're aligned with your purpose, they do not define your worth. Every person has an inherent worth simply by the virtue of being a person, a human, which is not diminished by external circumstances or how others perceive your societal roles. The other aspect we cannot forget is that roles change throughout lives. Your circumstances change throughout life. You might be a student one day, an employee the next, a manager the next, a parent, all of them together at the same time at a certain point, a retiree at a different time. If your self worth is tied to a very specific role, it can lead to a path of an identity crisis where you don't know who you are anymore. And it is because, however and how long your path has been going, you somehow associated your value with what you do. And to move that, when the role changes, when it's no longer applicable, then you get to a place of confusion and crisis. Recognizing that these roles are separate, completely separate from you and your worth, helps you maintain stability and confidence through any of life's transitions. When you separate your self worth from your roles, you alleviate the pressure to perform flawlessly in those roles at all times. It reduces stress and anxiety, of course. It allows you to engage more authentically and effectively in what you do without fear of failure in a role that equates to personal failure. Not approaching something okay is not a reflection of you as a person. It's always the action, and you can always learn from it and grow. And that impacts you as a person, of course, but never the role or what happened. When separating self worth from your roles, it helps you build resilience. You're less likely to be emotionally devastated by the changes or losses in specific roles because your fundamental sense of self remains intact. And this resilience is vital for navigating the inevitable ups and downs of life. There's another nuance I want to make sure we quickly touch on, which is conformity or and rebellion when it comes to self-worth. So let's kind of summarize this. Long story short, self-worth fundamentally involves recognizing and valuing your intrinsic worth as a person, and it allows you to be your authentic self. Absolutely. And the other two external behaviors where self worth has a nuanced impact when we look at this is rebelling and conforming. So let's look at self worth and rebellion first. Self worth encourages independence of thought based on your own values and beliefs. Rebellion, on the other hand, can come from a desire to assert independence and for the sake of making a point or for the sake of simply opposing, for the sake of opposing. Genuine self worth means making choices that align with your authentic self, whether those choices are seen as rebellious or not. So, rebelling with a purpose, especially as a means to advocate for meaningful and constructive changes, can reflect high self worth, provided they're aligned with your purpose. It shows a commitment to personal values and a willingness to stand up for oneself and for others, which is commendable and different, very different from rebelling without a clear, positive, constructive goal. Now let's look at self worth and conformity. Just like rebelling with a purpose, sometimes conformity is necessary and it can be beneficial, such as following laws and following beneficial social norms. People with high self worth can conform in these ways without feeling that their personal value is compromised because their actions are still in alignment with the broader set of values that have been put together for the greater good. Living authentically is a significant part of feeling worthy. This might mean conforming in some aspects of life where it aligns with your own personal beliefs, but not as it means or as a means to cover up one's true self or to gain approval from those around you for whatever reason. Self worth means you do not rely on external validation, which is often the basis of conformity. People with a strong sense of self worth validate themselves based on their internal standards and therefore are less likely to conform just to fit in or to be accepted. They confirm when it aligns with their purpose, values, belief, and self. The key to balancing rebellion and conformity while maintaining self worth lies in making conscious choices. It is about being aware. Why are you choosing what you're choosing? Are you doing it to conform, rebel for the right reasons? Are you ensuring that these choices are true to your self identity? As we close out today's session, let me say this. Your self worth is a critical asset, one that you cannot afford to overlook. It is really not up for negotiation. Not now, not ever. It is the quiet backbone of every step you take towards a fulfilling life. And as always, let me leave you with a challenge. Find some time to reflect on where you are on your journey of acceptance of your self worth. I may be speaking to somebody who's already there, and that's fantastic. And if you find yourself wondering, finding yourself agreeing to what is less than what you want and need, or you're unsure of any part of it, I encourage you to start that journey towards recognizing your true worth. I'm a life and leadership coach, as you know, and if I can help you with this journey, please do feel free to reach out to me. Also, if you're interested in a summary of the highlighted points I spoke about today, please feel free to reach out to me and I can email it to you. I will include my email in the podcast description, and you can also reach out to me through LinkedIn or Instagram, your preference. All my socials are going to be listed in the podcast description. Your self-worth is the fundamental truth of you. It's not a commodity that is open for negotiation. It is the cornerstone upon which you build a resilient, authentic, and a fulfilling life. So thank you for joining me today on Catalyze Yourself. I'm your host, Gayathri, and until next time, take care of yourself, reflect, become self-aware, give yourself compassion, and accept yourself as your one non-negotiable in life.